Hello, everyone. My name is Michaela Adames, and we want to welcome you to this presentation titled Real Talk from High School Students, where we will learn how to navigate through high school. First, I want to go ahead and introduce the panelists. So I will let each panelist introduce themselves and a little bit about themselves.
Hi, my name is Michelle. I am currently in 11th grade at Cross Keys High School.
Hello, my name is Walter, and I'm currently enrolled at Meadow Creek High School, and I'm a senior.
Hi, my name is Vanessa, and I'm currently in 11th grade, and I'm also in Cross Keys High School.
Hi, I'm Esmeralda, and I am a senior at Meadow Creek High School.
All right, and we do want to take the time to thank all of our panelists here for sharing their insight in today's presentation. So the first topic that we're going to go ahead and start with today is going to be main differences from middle school to high school. Does anybody have any big main difference that they noticed as soon as they transitioned from middle school to high school?
For me, I would have to say that the people I was hanging out with changed drastically from middle school to high school. Like, I still hang out with the same people, but then there's people that I never thought I would ever talk to that I end up becoming one of my closest friends.
Okay. Did anybody else experience something like that where maybe their network expanded, maybe it got a little bit smaller, or something like that?
I used to have a lot of friends in middle school. Now I just have like one or two. Like, all the friends you think you have aren't really going to be there. Well, at least mine weren't.
Okay.
So, one of the biggest glaring differences I see is the amount of freedom that you have, and that really ties into the changes in relationships that might occur from the transition from middle to high school. Because a lot of us have a lot more responsibilities, and we have to focus on how to manage our time. And sometimes we have to let go of some relationships that we used to have because we have to focus on other things that we have to prioritize.
Okay, and I think that you definitely bring up a good point. I feel like once students transition from middle school to high school, there is a big change in the way things are being done. Was there anything that changed within your classes? Were you seeing the same people in your classes, or was it new students? How was that?
For me, I would have to say that the classes definitely got harder. And I also found it weird that instead of having everybody in the same grade, there was seniors in my classes and there was sophomores.
Okay, and do you think that that helped you so that if you had a senior in your class and you were a freshman, that allowed you to maybe ask them questions about high school or get some insight on things that you might experience while you're learning all these things?
Yeah, it definitely helped a lot.
Is that something everybody else at their schools experience, or what was your thoughts on those classes, Walter?
So the classes that I had, I noticed that there was a lot of options like advanced placement, new enrollment, honors, gifted. There's all these things that you can choose from, which also ties into the last thing I said about there being a lot more decision making in high school. And that really also ties into what Michelle said about there being a lot more learning from the upper class who also are in your classes, as well as the teachers that you meet as well.
Okay, and what about you, Vanessa? What do you think was the biggest difference that you saw when you transitioned from middle school to being in high school?
I think the maturity between people. When you go into a class, like Michelle said, you see upperclassmen in your class, but sometimes they're the ones that have the same mindset as you. So you come in as no knowledge as they did as well.
Okay, and do you think that you've been able to become friends with maybe upperclassmen or be able to have somebody maybe mentor you? That if you have any type of questions, you can say, "Hey, how did you do this? What did you do when you were in ninth grade?" Do you guys feel like that's something that's been able to happen?
Yeah, some of them are pretty chill and they really help you out, especially when you're coming in from 8th grade to a freshman. They can really show you what classes to take or where are your classes.
Is that the same type of experience that you had, Esmeralda, when you were transitioning?
Yes, because I made a lot of friends with the upperclassmen. That's why a lot of my friendships distanced. And they did help a lot, and they helped me stay on track most of the time.
Okay, and I think that brings up a good point, and that leads us right into our next topic, which is more freedom equals more responsibility. So just discussing the differences of the new responsibilities that you guys are acquiring while now in high school. What were those responsibilities, and what were some of those freedom? What is this new freedom that you guys gained? How was that for you guys?
Well, you were now able to pick your own classes, meaning that if you have the freedom to pick that, then you're the one in charge of whether you do your own work or not. So nobody else is that can really be held accountable for that other than you.
And what about everybody else? How was that for you guys?
I think another way of responsibility and freedom is when you get to choose your own club you want to go into. And participation when it comes to that is really important because when you do like community service, maybe you have to show responsibility when you go because you are literally the face that you're showing to other people, like, this is what we do,
Mhm.
and I'm setting the example.
So what I'm getting from your comment is that maybe, yeah, you get to have more fun, you get to join whatever club you want, you have that freedom, but you also gain more responsibility because now you have to know, you have to put in the work to be able to make the events happen and to represent the club well. And how do you balance that? How do you keep up with, okay, I want to join this amount of clubs, but I also have these responsibilities with my classes? How did you guys balance that?
Well, for me, I would have to say it's like a lot of like trial and error, but also knowing how much you yourself can handle, because your ability to handle things might be different from the person that's sitting right next to you. So you have to really just think of yourself when you're doing that.
I agree with Michelle. I feel like you shouldn't bite more than you could chew. You have to know yourself and you have to know your limits. You can't like participate in too many clubs and overwhelm yourself and focus on other things that aren't as important as like your grades or something like that.
Okay, and I think those are two great points that you guys bring up. And one question that comes to mind when I hear those comments is, where does a student go when they have questions about how many clubs they should take, or what if they think they could join 5 clubs and still take all a full course load? Where do they go to get guidance on these things to make sure that they're thinking of all the aspects of all these things?
So based on my personal experience in high school, my source of guidance were always my teachers. Of course, there are your counselors with which will always be there for you, but your teachers, if you have really strong bonds with them, you can really talk with them with a lot of things. What is your opinion on it, Esmeralda?
For me, it was also my teachers, mostly because the counselors aren't just focused on you; they're focused on your entire grade level. So I feel if you make a good connection with your teacher, they'll help you more than a counselor would.
Okay. And what about you guys, Michelle and Vanessa? I know you both attend different schools. Is that the same way at your school, or is there a different resource that you guys have?
I think knowing yourself as well helps out because you need to learn how much you can take and how much you can't. Because if you overdo yourself, you will go like through a lot of stress, and stress doesn't really help when it comes to your grades either.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like you should be able to balance those things out so that you don't overstress yourself in this new chapter. What about you, Michelle? What is your thoughts on this?
For me, I would have to say it's like what Walter said, that you have to form good connections with your teachers so that they can pitch you to these kind of things.
All right. And so that does wrap up part one of Real Talk from High School Students. I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in, and thank you to all of our panelists. Please be sure to tune into part two where we will get into some more topics about surviving high school. Thank you.